how my life have changed after moving from Toronto to Vancouver. Today I have been moving to Vancouver for about 16 months, the Greater Vancouver area. Last February, I went from Toronto to Richmond and then lived in Richmond for 7 months temporarily. Then moved to Vancouver to this apartment end of September 2017. So overall, it has been over a year after I moved. I found that there are lots of discussions online about Toronto versus Vancouver. And my own journey of moving from Toronto to Vancouver is very personal. I mean, first, before I moved, I thought Toronto and Vancouver are just the two large cities of Canada. There's not much difference, and it didn't worth to move. Eventually, when I was considering move to a place to move to, I was looking for a community in which I belong and I like, and the feeling would be mutual, and there are lots of opportunities to create connections and do community building and just in general contribute to the world I live in. And meanwhile, I was also looking for a way to pursue my dream in terms of professional path. So for a long time, I have been specialized in supply chain management. I worked in all kinds of sectors, industries, and in all kinds of locations in the world. And I felt this path has been more and more narrowed when I focus more on the supplier side in the service industries. And I really felt my work in the community helped me to build a lot of insights in human growth, learning, and spirituality. And this interest took me to study more on adult education, sociology, literature, etc., etc. And I have been working a lot in the different communities. So I was looking for a job where I can combine my business acumen with the community insights. And it happened that within the same bank I am working in, there are opportunities to coach a lot of people and on a daily basis, and also have a customer focus, which I didn't have. I was more on the supplier side. So that suited my interest. And the third thing I was looking at was my hobby. So one of my main hobby was sailing. And I was thinking moving to Vancouver would be able to help me to really develop skills for offshore sailing. So I was sailing on Lake of Ontario, and I was previously sailing on Andaman Sea in Malaysia and Thailand. And then to Lake Ontario, then it can get me back to the ocean and continue developing my skills. So I was sailing on the lake. I felt like reached a plateau, and I wasn't particularly crazy about racing on the lake in a dinghy or racing on the lake in a keelboat. So moving to Vancouver was an opportunity as well. So I evaluated my overall situation and decided if I wanted to move, Vancouver would be one of the suitable places. I also considered other places in the world. So I developed a list of cities I would potentially move to, and Vancouver was at the top. And the second one was actually in Accra in Ghana, in Africa. So when I was looking at Africa, I talked to people who live there all their lives, and we identified this West Africa area would be suitable for my personality, and I love dancing, and we just thought that area would be suitable. And I was focusing on Nigeria, Ghana, and Liberia. And I happened to have a friend in Liberia, and he didn't enjoy so much about it. And then I happened to be connected with friends in Ghana through friends and friends and friends, and I talked to them about what I do, and they really like it in the community wise. And I thought if I moved there, I would probably be able to find something to do within either North America or Chinese community. So that was on the second of my list, and the third place in the world on my list was in Macau. So I've been visiting Macau about once every 1 or 2 years, and I have connections there and solid relationship, and I see what I can do community wise. Wasn't very clear about what I can do professional wise, but I wasn't so much worried about it after having developed successful career in China and in Toronto. So I decided to spend 2 weeks each to visit those cities before I decide where to move. So this time the relocation is quite different. Even though after 1998 I've been moving around and I never stayed in one place for over 5 years except in Toronto. This relocation is the first time I relocate purely just to relocate. There is no specific job, like no specific job or no specific relationship or anything specific to cause me to move. So I was in general looking at how can I live my life better, and in a more beautiful way. I was turning 35. I wanted to find a way to contribute to the betterment of the world, rather than like previously. I was more focusing on learning and being exposed to new experiences. So this time I was really looking for a way to put all what I have been learning into something I can contribute to, and I can learn from the process of contributing. So I firstly visited Vancouver end of 2016. I decided to move here, and after 2 months I moved here. Everything was happening as I thought. I joined new sailing club, started offshore sailing. I took courses in navigation and radio, and I've been on weekend-long trip, offshore sailing trip around the Gulf Islands and several other islands around Vancouver as well. And dancing wise, I've been exploring contra dance and West Coast swing, really on the West Coast, not in Toronto. And work wise, I did grow a lot, even though I took a pay cut in order to do what I enjoy to do. I become a lot more engaged at work. I developed a lot of skills. I finally was able to do the thing I really wanted to do. And I can see this specific experiences really bridge the gap for me, professional wise, and it would help me to move forward. So finally, I stay away from that defined path of getting specialized and more specialized and being pigeonholed. Instead, I am now in a career path that I feel I'm in the core of the business. I'm at the forefront. I'm talking to people every day, and I have a team. I have customers. And I feel really engaged and shoulder responsibilities that can make a true difference in my daily basis. Even though it doesn't seem very glorious, I was working as a branch in a bank. I can see, for me, I feel the joy and the happiness every day, and I'm so glad to have taken this step, and I can see how it can bring me forward. So in general, I felt finally I get unstuck from the dead water and finally going to open sea, if taking sailing as an analogy. Community-wise, I was living in a neighborhood in Toronto where there are a lot of elders. So I was doing a lot of projects with people in their 70s, and they were successful. I mean, I also did a bunch of projects were not very successful, but several of them were in my own neighborhood in Western Toronto near High Park. But I didn't see how I can continue this in the long term with people in general 40 years older than me. Nothing against that, but I do feel I want to hang out with a different demographic people. So when I moved to Vancouver, I chose to live east of Vancouver, which wouldn't be my personal preference if not considering the community side. I would rather live in Kitsilano or near the ocean. Just like I lived in Toronto near High Park. It was close to the water, close to the nature, and have lots of outdoor things. But what I have learned in Toronto was I was living in such a beautiful place, and nobody or rarely people would like to visit, just because mentally they don't see that location as part of their daily commute circle or in their reach. So now I'm living in East Van. I can walk to my friend's place anytime. I can make a last minute phone call, hang out there with their family, and from there I developed projects, community projects, learning group. I wrote a book, facilitate process of learning and community elections, summer school teaching, and also it just happened that Vancouver is such a Asian Chinese influenced place, and I was able to learn how to navigate this different water with my identity. Um, so for a long time, I was running away from my Chinese um, community, and I was eager to learn and develop something new. And I was frankly a bit afraid of being immersed in Chinese community because just like a lot of young people, I was a little bit afraid of being um, imposed upon, of being pressured by the conformity, by an old way of thinking or narrow definition about what a Chinese should do. But living in Toronto, living in Vancouver, and also including in Richmond for 7 months, I slowly learned how to navigate the water and use those things, use those cultural environments really to help me to be more effective in building communities and getting along with people, making friends, rather than to my disadvantage. So after 16 months of moving away from Toronto to Vancouver area, in general, I feel being a better person. Um, Interestingly, on the surface, I didn't get a higher paid job, but I can feel the joy every day, and it's unbelievable. It's an incredible path, and I really enjoy this move, and it has been proven to be a great relocation. So if someone asks me advice I would give for people considering a relocation, I would say think about what kind of life you want to live in. If you haven't decided or just wondering, exploring, have a visit in that place. A visit can never be the same as you really live there, but it's better than nothing. And it would be tremendously helpful if you want to make a decision such as relocation. It's not a small decision. You're gonna have certain commitment after moving there, right? Because we don't want to move around the world like every year, especially when you are later in your life and you want to have more meaningful time with relatively stable group of friends. So that's all, and would love to hear from you as usual. This is a general summary of my journey, and I'll keep you updated from then. Thanks.